All right, folks. Well, thank you for joining the Vantage Point at Mary Baldwin University today. We are hosting our virtual version of Let's Do Lunch, which is a series the office tries to host to help connect our student talent to the different employment opportunities that are in the local area and beyond. So our guests today, I'll let them introduce themselves, but they include Alternatives Federal Credit Union up in Ithaca, New York, Arlington County Police Department, a little north of us here, Blue Ridge Court Services, and Alt Energy Inc. and Project Grows, as well as Stanton Augusta YMCA, all here in the local Stanton area. So my work at Mary Baldwin, my name again is Lindsay Walsh. I serve there as the assistant director, and I get to connect with our employers in the community and try to find you all internships and employment opportunities. So before I turn it over to our panelists, I'll just let you know that we have an MBA student with us, a business student that intends to graduate in the class of 23, and we have a psychology student at the class of 2022. But we'll kind of go in alphabetical order here. So I'll let Chris Kane go, and then we'll get Phil Lennon to introduce himself. So Chris.
Hi, good morning, panelists and Mary Baldwin. It is great to join you guys today. Lindsay, thank you so much for having me join you. My name is Chris Kane, and I'm the Chief Experience Officer at Alternatives Federal Credit Union in Ithaca, New York. And I work for what's called a community development credit union. So traditional financial tools and tweak them to a way that gives access to capital to a wide variety of people. So our mission is to help people build wealth and get themselves out of poverty by helping them buy businesses and buy homes and be much more financially secure in their personal life and in their community. But so I consider myself a neighborhood economist, meaning that I'm a banker now, but at one point I actually was in Stanton, Virginia for a long time. So I ran the Stanton Creative Community Fund. And if you guys don't know about the Stanton Fund, get to know them. So I helped fund small businesses and even start one like the Stanton Innovation Hub a couple of years ago. So anyway, I help small businesses start and grow from bolts to nuts, and now I help fund them.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for joining us. And I saw Joyelle Allen also logged in while you were introducing yourself. So you've got, you got some friendly faces out there. All right, Mr. Phil Lennon, can you please tell us your name, your role, and the work that you're doing there at Alt Energy?
Sure. Hi. Lindsay, yeah, thanks so much for giving us the opportunity to help out and to provide any sort of insight possible. Not that I feel like I've got a ton for you all, but let's see. At Alt Energy, I am the branch manager assistant, second in command of our local branch in Stanton. I handle all the logistics and administrative tasks for each project, which include everything from permitting, trade permits, building permits. I coordinate equipment and materials, and whatever, interesting requests the crew sends our way. It's my job just to make sure that all the materials are on site and the guys can execute the work in front of them. Yeah, I think that's it. I started 2 years ago as an installer, which kind of places me in a unique role in the administrative side of things, although Lindsay's husband Dan and my boss Joe, they both started as installers. Those are two integral components to our company. But yeah, so now I'm an office administrator. Instead of landing mods on arrays, I send emails and make phone calls.
Well, it depends on the day. Let's be for real. They're going to make sure that you get on a roof from time to time.
Yeah, it's true. I do end up being the fireman. Anytime something's going on, I have to run around. So
Nice.
it's a weird, comfortable nature that I have. So they like me in that role.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Phil. So we'll stick with the alphabetical theme here. And Detective Souls, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Detective Souls with the Arlington County Police. I have been working with them for about 4.5 years now. I was a patrol officer up until this June, and I became an SRO. With schools not really being in person, we've kind of transitioned our unit to either helping on patrol or helping with our detective units for dealing with the different use cases that we have. And myself and my partner actually work on outreach to kind of help the youth in Arlington to kind of deal with all that 2020 has kind of presented and kind of help them have the available resources and kind of make connections and have some positive.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us from Arlington today.
Absolutely.
So, next will be Blue Ridge Court Services. Megan Roan, can you please introduce yourself to our students?
Sure. My name is Megan Roan, and I'm the director of Blue Ridge Court Services in Stanton. I've been with this agency for 21 years, and we provide sentencing alternatives to the courts.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. And then we have Nicole Barrows. If you introduce yourself.
Hi, can you hear me, Lindsay? Hi, Chris.
Sure can.
Hi. Well, my name is Nicole Barrows. I am the director of education for Project Grows. Project Grows is an educational nonprofit farm. So our farm is located in Verona, just outside of Stanton. And our office is at the Stanton Innovation Hub, which is where I met Chris and Lindsay. And my job before COVID was to bring students from the schools out to our farm to do field trips and experiential learning and garden education. During the pandemic, my job has looked a little bit different. I've been doing online videos, a little bookkeeping, kind of a mashup. But a fun background piece of information that is relevant for this is that I went to JMU and got my master's in teaching and education, and I taught in the classroom for several years. That was my dream job, and I sort of held my dream job a little bit with some flexibility, and I ended up teaching outside. So that's kind of how I ended up in outdoor education.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. And I think we got him back. Mr. Chris Lassiter, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
My name is Chris Lassiter. I am the Marketing and Communications Director for the Stanton Augusta Family YMCA. I came there with a background in journalism. I did 15 years as a news leader in Stanton, which is kind of telling the community story, and switched over to marketing and communications, where I tell the YMCA story. So I enjoy basically I do the newsletters, the websites, profiles of individuals, videography, photography, and some graphic design, even though we have a better graphic design person in the building. It just falls on me when she's busy.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. So I think, as we've heard, as you introduce yourselves, we have quite a collection of careers represented today. But our intention with this event was to kind of show that, just the different things that you guys can do with a liberal arts degree. And today's careers were specifically kind of targeted for our business and our pre-professional students. And so some of the top majors at Mary Baldwin include criminal justice, business, and marketing and communications. So thinking about those students that might be joining us today or checking this out in the recording, to any of our panelists, what's the best advice you can give to help plan a career rather than simply working to keep a job?
So this is Megan. I'll be more than happy to go first. I would say, thinking about this question, I just really think that you need to choose something that you're passionate about. So I would definitely say that you should be guided by something that you're passionate about. That's what's kept me here for, like I said, 21 years. and it's just been a good fit. I'm very passionate about this community. And with us providing sentencing alternatives, we work with folks that really haven't been given the same opportunities that I would say I've been giving growing up. I had a very, I've been very fortunate, let's just put it like that. It's very nice to be able to work with individuals, that they've been provided a second chance by the courts, that maybe we can help get them on the right path and keep them from coming back into the system. So for me, it's all about just kind of finding your passion. And then it's definitely you enjoy going to work, and it's definitely more than just a job.
Yeah, and I have a little upper hand here, but Megan, did you happen to intern at the place that you're working while you were a student to get a taste of that career?
So I actually did not intern here.
Oh, I thought you had, because we talked about Bridgewater, but keep telling us.
So I actually went to Bridgewater, and I actually interned at social services in Harrisonburg. And so when I graduated, they called me back after a week and asked me to fill a temporary position in Child Protective Services. And so I said, absolutely, I would do that. So I actually filled that position, and they offered me a full-time position. And I was offered a part-time position here, actually starting at the front desk. I remember making $17,000 a year. And so if I would have decided to go to social services, I would have started at a much larger salary. But again, I knew long term, so sure that I would be able to stay at social services. I found myself taking my work home with me. It's definitely not for everyone. So for those that are able to do that career, I'm very grateful for them. But as far as here, again, it was definitely driven by my passion. So I started out at the front desk, and I've just kind of worked my way up. I actually started at the front desk, and I was there for about a year, and then I was a probation officer for about 15 years, and then I became the assistant director, and now I'm the director. So, yes, that's been my path here.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. And for students or other folks who might have just logged in, we have asked our panel what's the best advice they can give on helping plan a career instead of simply working a job.
Lindsay, I'll go next.
Lindsay, I don't mind going next.
Sweet. I heard Chris before Phil, so we'll hear from
Sure, go for it, Chris.
Next. Thanks, Phil, and it's great to hear from you. I definitely second to find your passion. But I think what's also equally is important, and I'm going to say something maybe, I forget, there was a really smart word that I had, and I lost it. What I'm gonna say, you need to know what you don't want to do, right? And be uncompromising about that, And so I think that's equally as important, right? And so if you figure out what you don't want to do, so it immediately takes out a lot of bad career, wrong career paths, right? But I think along with that, you need to listen for opportunities that may not seem at first blush to be exactly what you want to do too. Like, technically, I'm a banker, right? I have a degree, and my, my undergrad degree was in psychology, right? So how does all of that work? Well, I was a small business coach for years and years and years and years, and that psychology degree fits in perfectly with that. So, so listening for opportunities, I think knowing what you don't want to do, and like don't compromise with that, right? But also have a little bit of an adventure side, because sometimes you jump into something. Like I found my career path at a credit union. Who would have thought that, right? And so being able to open yourself up to some really good experiences, but take people along with you. And I think that's probably one of the other thing too, is build relationships along the way. Reach out. I think that was one of the questions later on, is if you're approaching people that you want to work with, do it. Like, think about who you want to be and look for other people who are doing that or doing that work, whether it is as a profession, as a volunteer, or as an intern, or maybe it's one of your professors, right? But I think listening for opportunities, building good relationships, and don't pigeonhole yourself into something that you really don't want to do. And then find your voice. If you find yourself in that situation where you're in the wrong job or you're in the wrong place, find your voice and be able to articulate that in a way to either change your circumstances or simply get out of it. And again, that's kind of that definitely find your passion and all the positive stuff that goes along with that. But also it takes a little bit of a self-awareness that you guys are, hopefully learning along the way at your experience at Mary Baldwin. So, and I think last but not least, have fun while you're doing it. Oh, please have fun. Enjoy whatever work you do. So I think that's my advice.
Great advice. So no pressure, Phil. Let's see if you can follow that.
Yeah, right. So wholeheartedly agree with both the ladies who just went. Follow your passion and definitely know what you don't want to do. I had a lot of experience with that specifically. So short, after high school, I went into the Marine Corps, served 4 years as an infantryman. After that, got out and started an academic track, to a PhD in sociology. I dropped out of that about halfway through and started a business, opened up a couple gyms, and it was in that time that I realized that I didn't want to do a lot of that, and then I was able to pivot where I am now. Pivot, whatever word, excuse me. Sorry, I use that trash. But I was able to adjust and start up with Alt Energy. I guess, to piggyback on the wonderful advice that was just laid out there, was that know what your passion is. That is important, but know the meta behind it. That's what it was for me, because with all this disparate experience, what's the common thread between that? The military, sociology, and small business management, yada yada. And then with Alt Energy, it's service for me. I really like being of service to people. And in between all these major jobs, I was a server at the best restaurant in town, Zinandoa, and learned what true service, true wait service feels like. And that has been integral in my customer communication here with Alt Energy. And now at Alt Energy, I'm on a job site right now that it's worth far more than what I did in a year as a business owner with a gym. But I'm able to communicate with people in a way that no matter what the bankroll is, I can see eye to eye with everybody, from the gentlemen who are laying the footers on the new construction going in the building next door to the owner of the whole 400 or 500 acre farm that I'm standing in the middle of right now. So with that wide experience, being open to all these opportunities that have come and gone through my past, I'm able to pull all that experience into exactly where I am today. And so it's easy to get bogged down in the day-to-day of things, or wherever you are. It's easy to feel a doldrum, but at the same time, knowing that at the bottom of that line is a diamond that is going to help you in the future, just helps you get through your day. And it also releases you from this idea that your career needs to be this one trajectory in one direction at all times. And know that although it might take different footpaths, different airways, different, whatever it is, it might take a subway. It doesn't matter. It's all heading towards realizing that meta meaning that means so much to you.
Definitely. And I think it sounds like you're the at least third person now to echo too that careers aren't necessarily a linear path, but sometimes circuitous, or whatever the circular word is here, or jaggy, but the common thread is either skills that you're using or value that you have that you're embracing. So I love some of this that you guys are giving us. Anybody else like to talk about how
especially with the shift, especially with the shift in COVID and everybody working at home now, and you know, whether you're quote unquote essential, it pains me that that's the label that we put on things. But whether you're in the field or you're working, you know, at your desk at home, like knowing that you're still part of this cohesive team, our community, is really important as well.
Definitely. And I think I saw Detective Souls. Did you have something to say?
I do. Some of the stuff has already been touched on, so it's kind of nice to see that across the board of all these different spectrums of careers that we all kind of have found our niche using the same things in the road that led us here. My pieces of advice would be accepting that things may and probably will change, and that's okay, and it's all part of that growth and finding where you're meant to be, and don't get bogged up in what you've been training for, what you're good at versus what you want to do. I never anticipated being a cop, ever, not once in life. And I had 3 career field changes to get here. I was pre-med undergrad, I got my master's in biodefense, and I became a cop. And the struggle I had was that I had spent so much time and so much of my life planning on going to medical school and becoming a doctor. That's what I wanted. I was good at it. I did internships. I did shadowing. I used to help do all sorts of stuff. I felt like I was wasting that time that I had spent preparing me for that. But ultimately, it didn't make me happy. I wanted to give back. I wanted to do something that was good for society and help people. But I knew that being in that field was not ultimately what made me happy. So I career changed, and I also went to go work in the service industry. And I did that for a while and met a lot of great people, a lot of great experiences, and I think that's kind of goes into networking and kind of talking to people really seems to help in what I do now. And then randomly I had a bunch of people tell me that I had this characteristics of being a cop, and I was all right, we'll see what it's about, and I applied. So I think my parents are still shocked, but there's definitely going to be challenges along the way. Don't give up and don't be scared of changing directions. And even though I was really good at science and I'm still a science nerd, just because I was good at it, it's not what I want to do 24/7. And as soon as I started academy, I knew this is exactly where I was meant to be. I'm still able to give back to society. I'm still able to have that service and do good things. I still deal with some science stuff, still deal with service stuff. It's just different. So don't be afraid to change, but definitely don't compromise on what's going to make you happy, and find your non-negotiables.
Great advice there. Especially too, I think it comes back to those non-negotiables you talked about, right? Whether that is a schedule or an environment you want to work in or a service component to your job. Those are all really important. So let's see, anybody else have comments on career over job? Oh, I see Nicole.
Hey, so a couple thoughts about some advice. I was thinking about how I got my first job out of college and thought that this would be a relevant thing to share. So like I said, I got my master's in teaching, and I was applying to jobs all throughout Virginia. And the more I looked around, the more I loved Harrisonburg and the community that I had already built here while I was in college. And so for me, part of choosing my career was also choosing the community that I wanted to be in. And then kind of what Chris was saying, it choosing that kind of narrowed, it means that I said no to all the other cool careers that I could go to or places that I could go to. And I kind of picked my place, and then found something that I was within my field that I was excited to do in that place. So that's one thing that I've thought about a lot, about just a career is so much more meaningful when you are doing it with people that you are inspired by and are supported by, whether that's, actually at your job or just in the place that you live, or the community that you participate in. So that's one thought. And then another one is, I remember when I got my first teaching job, one of my mentors told me, the most important person on your floor, like when you're a teacher, is your custodian. And I was like, that's cool. And so I didn't really understand why. And so I went to, on my first day of teaching, I met my students, and then I met my custodian, and I built a relationship with my custodian. And I did that for all my different classrooms that I moved to. I got all different, but that's really stuck with me. And it makes me think that your career is not just about you, but about all the people that you're interacting with along the way, whether it's your custodian who's cleaning your classroom and you're talking to and getting to know about their lives and how they work into your field, or if it's the students that you're working with or the clients that you're working with. Yeah, I've realized that over the years, being intentional about being building friendships and relationships with the people who were either essential or tangential to my jobs have actually helped me. That's not why I did it, but they've helped me a lot make connections for me to other jobs that I ended up going to later, or helping me advance in the job that I was currently in because I had good rapport with others. So that's my advice. Your career is more than just about you, but about all the people that your life is touching.
That's great. Thank you very much, Nicole. And then last call here. Anybody else have something to say? 'Cause we've got a whole stack of questions. Don't worry. All right. I don't hear anyone speaking up or see any crazy waves. So we'll move on to the resource question. So for our guests today, do you have any books or maybe videos or articles or magazines, websites to follow, suggestions that you think students should check out if they want to learn more about the work that you guys are doing or that helped you guys get where you are? And why do you think they should consider that as part of their information intake?
Yeah, I'll do this one. Can you hear me?
Yes, Chris Lassiter, you are just the man for this question.
Yeah, so I looked over the questions. I was like, oh, I can speak to that one. But two resources that I said oh, I wish I'd have read when I was still in college. One of them wasn't available, but the guy that runs both Chick-fil-A's, the one in Staten Island and Waynesburg, is Jay Hawkins, and he wrote a little book. It's like a leadership parable called The Pando Principle, and it's this guy that was successful in a career that he didn't love, and how he started to undo his life to be successful in something that he was passionate about. It's called The Pando Principle, and I just think it's really good. The other book has been around forever. I think it's in its 50-something edition, but it's called What Color is Your Parachute? And it just kind of helps you figure out some of those things that we've all talked about experientially, on the front end, without saying oh, I might not need to. If I knew myself a little better up front and not do so much trial and error, but it's just a book that makes you answer all these questions about yourself and kind of helps you paint a picture. Nicole said, would you be happier choosing a job or would you be happier choosing a location? How far could you live away from your siblings and still be happy? Well, then draw a circle that far and figure out what you want to do. And then it's just like that with all of these questions, and it really just helps you know you. And it's called What Color is Your Parachute? And I forgot who wrote it, but I know the Pando Principle is a book by Jay Hawkins, and he's brilliant. He really is. I think a lot of fast food chains play checkers, and they've always played chess. For instance, they would have someone in their department who would look when college football people travel, figure out everyone who was coming by their restaurant and call them and say, hey, if you want to stop here, we'll have your food ready. Your team doesn't even have to get off the bus. And so they would just watch to see like which college football teams were traveling near them and had somebody who did outreach. I mean, they just are brilliant in their business approach. He's a brilliant mind and he wrote a great book. So those would be my two.
Nice. It sounds like the Pando principle will definitely touch on some proactivity and perhaps knowing your market. Any other recommendations from the crowd, websites, books? Oh, I see Chris.
I'll throw one out, which is one of my favorites, by Simon Sinek. If you guys don't know Simon Sinek, you should read his books. You should listen to his podcasts. He is brilliant. But the one that got me introduced to his ideology is Find Your Why. And much like what color is your parachute, it is it's kind of a choose your own adventure sort of book. So you work your way through it. But he takes you through quite a bit of exercises, quite a few exercises, so you can kind of figure out like what is your own personal mission statement? You know, what is your purpose? And you do some exercises along through it, and you know what you find out about yourself and your surroundings, and how to listen for opportunities, and your non-negotiables, all of those things. So I loved that book. And he also has another one, Start With Why. And another one called Leaders Eat Last. Anyway, he's awesome. But and if you go to YouTube, he has a whole YouTube channel. So if you want to only do little snippets, if you're interested at all in being a leader in whatever field you're in, you don't necessarily have to be, you know, the super duper boss to be a leader. You know, whatever field you go into or whatever position you have, you can be a leader no matter where you are. And so that's what I love about him. You know, you really take kind of providence of your own destiny and help you move forward. And plus, he just has a lovely voice. I adore him. So anyway, Simon Sinek's Find Your Why.
Awesome. What else do we have out there?
All right, Lindsay, I've got a couple. It's Phil.
Yes, let us know, Phil, what you got.
Yeah. So first one, like I was really late getting to this one, but I've read it a couple of times since I started it, or since I picked it up the first time. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Oh my gosh, what a wonderful narrative. But as far as the lessons from that, just, you know, doing the best you possibly can wherever you find yourself. And, you know, although it may lead you back to home, it will lead you back to the treasures that you didn't realize were sitting under your nose at the start. But that was an epic book to pick up you know, in the middle of my transition out of being a gym owner. The other one, if you're getting into organizations, especially larger organizations, these tend to get really unwieldy as far as communications and keeping everybody lockstep and on the same page or moving in the same direction, or being able to adjust for new situations that erupt, you know, on any given morning. That's Team of Teams by Stanley McChrystal. It showcases how he took the Joint Task Force that was overseeing operations in Iraq and Afghanistan and basically globalized a battlefield operation so that they can pull people from, you know, from everybody from diplomats to CIA operatives, all on the same page, you know, from different corners of the world completely, and be able to track down a moving threat in Al-Qaeda in Iraq. It's a really kind of spellbinding book trying to, and there's amazing little tips and tricks, and they're not even little tips and tricks. He reorganized the whole thing. So if you're going into an organization and you really want to clarify your language, if you really want to make sure that everybody on the team is on the same page, that's the book I highly recommend to folks. And then beyond that, I'm kind of like a Tim Ferriss file. Like I still pay attention to his podcast. I have every one of his books. His later his later tomes are Tribe of Mentors, and I can't remember what the other one is. Yeah, either way, his last two books are anthologies of advice from the top performers around the world. You know, tidbits from like how they hire people to what they eat for breakfast. You know, if you pay attention to Tim Ferriss at all, you know that he's got these wide-ranging conversations with some of the most powerful minds in industry, and that's every industry. He's had Sia on. If you're into music, he's had Richard Branson on. He just had one with Richard Koch, who's an investor out of Britain, who's had like 40% returns for the last 25 years or something like that. Yeah, so Tim Ferriss is definitely somebody I go to for advice, information, and knowledge leaning into the business world, whether I'm the owner myself or just part of the organization inside. But yeah, that's a limit for now. And read voraciously. Don't limit yourself at all. You know, if you pick up a book and it gets boring, put it down. Who cares? Move on. You know, there's so many books out there. You are not going to read them all. Even all the books you've identified between growing up to this point now, you're not going to read all of those books. And there's amazing books you haven't heard of yet and that have yet to be written. So don't tie yourself to this idea that you quote unquote have to finish a book. If you ever find yourself thinking that, put it down and leave it on the nightstand or leave it on the desk. You might come back to it or you might not, but just keep reading, because reading is going to help you just add to your language. You know, when you have a wider and wider array of words to describe whatever you're staring at and you're frustrated with, when you can identify it, you can move it off of your mind onto paper or, you know, on a whiteboard, whatever it is, and just offload the burden of remembering it. So read voraciously. Yeah, that's that, and Alchemist if you need a little pick-me-up.
Great recommendations. The only time I'm going to disagree with your advice here is if your professor has given you a reading assignment. I highly recommend you partake of it. It might not be as interesting as you hoped. So
topic sentences, and conclusion sentences. Get through it. Just get through it.
That's right. Abstract and conclusion. That's all you need. All right. How about from the rest of the panel? Any websites, articles, books our students should be checking out?
Yeah, I have one. I've only read it one time, but it moved me, and I'm hoping to read it again. It's Let Your Life Speak by Parker Palmer. I think that's right. He's just writing about his own life and how he kind of found his way, and but it's specifically about vocation, or some people might say calling, like they feel like they have a calling, like to do something on their life. And yeah, I remember a quote. It was something like, when each time a door closes, the rest of the world opens up. And that idea of sort of, choosing a career path and job searching just requires a lot of decision making. And every time you make a decision, it's like you have to say yes to something and you have to say no to a lot of other things. But like when you say yes to something, this whole other world opens up of possibilities. So it's a short read and probably skews more towards like inspirational, but it's wonderful.
We love inspirational. Thank you very much. All right, last call out for the panel. Any things our students should be following, reading, videos to check out? All right, and I've put the ones recommended in the chat box if you guys want to follow up. So now let's get into the nitty gritty, now that we've got you all warmed up with these inspirational books and insights. So when you guys have tough to make at work, how are you keeping your feelings separate from your decision making?
I can go.
Great. Kick off.
All right. So obviously, everybody has to make a lot of decisions. My decisions affect people to a very high degree, and it's very important, you know, for me to maintain that I either don't take things personally, because there's a lot of people that don't like me, and it's not that they don't like me for who I am, because they don't know me. They've never met me. They don't like what I represent, or they don't like the uniform that I wear. And that's okay, because everybody's entitled to their different experiences and their feelings. And so as long as you just remember that everybody is a person and your job is there to treat people respectfully and be a person to them, it really doesn't matter what they say. And, you know, you're the professional, you're the one that has to be in control of your emotions and your thoughts and your actions. And, you know, I think when you are respectful to people, it makes the decision making a lot easier. It takes out any feelings. If it comes down to your decision making for looking for a career field, you know, you need to have your emotions attached. You need to have a lot of self-reflection and a lot of hard talks with yourself about why you might be feeling a certain way based on the decision you want to make or don't want to make, or you already have made. You know, why did it upset you? Why did it anger you? You know, criticism at work with either a coworker or something, and that's, you know, affecting your decision. You know, criticism is meant to improve you. So listen to criticism from people that you know and trust and look up to, because they're the ones that are giving criticism to mold you, and you should be giving criticism to yourself. And I think when you see it as that, it doesn't affect your feelings, because it's all meant in a positive light to improve and grow. And, you know, I think there's just a lot of learning about yourself and growing and kind of just keeping those in check along the way. And sometimes you're going to slip up, and, you know, your feelings are going to get in the way of your decisions, and you have to be mindful of that, and you have to recognize when it happens and try to grow from it and learn and move forward.
Great, thank you so much. I think, like you hinted at, your profession very much impacts other people's lives based on the decisions you make. So thank you for sharing that. That sometimes it's just about getting a job done and not taking it personally, because everybody's going to have bad days, and you probably see more people's bad days than the rest of us.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Any other advice about separating feelings from important work decisions?
Yeah, I've got one, Lindsay. So what, you know, when I read the question initially, like keeping your emotions in check, my first reaction to that was like I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but like as far as like keeping those emotions inside, but maybe just allowing the emotion to wash over and not drive your response. So, you know, if you find yourself shooting emails or text messages back and forth, and it feels like it's being derailed, it's always better to just pick up the phone, because that's going to, just kind of take the lack of humanity of text and add the humanity of a voice on the other end of it. But also, you know, especially since so much of our professional work is via text, you know, whether it's an email, whether it's a text message or Slack or whatever it is, you know, Google Hangout, it doesn't matter. API, always assume positive intent, you know, so if I read a message and my gut reaction is, you know, WTF, does this person, you know, why would this person say this to me? How harsh, yada, yada. If I API and I try to reread the message with positive intent behind it, what are they actually trying to ask of me? Or what are they, you know, as the last speaker said, like, what kind of critique do I need to actually embody or address to improve my ability in my position for this task? So API is a big one. And also just take a couple deep breaths. It's surprising what, you know, if I get into a job site and I know even if there isn't chaos going on, when I pull in and I shut the truck off, I don't do anything for 30 seconds to a minute. I mean, I don't pick up my phone. I don't pick up my notebook, my calendar, my laptop. I don't open the door. I don't roll up the window, nothing. for 30 to 60 seconds, just because that brief space of mindfulness arms me for whatever is outside that door or on the other end of that phone or email, whatever. So in moments of transition, take a couple seconds to not do anything, not lean into the next step, because that's when, if you just keep leaning, this is what I found for myself, is if I just keep leaning forward constantly, by the end of the day, not only am I zapped physically, emotionally, what have you, I have made so many mistakes throughout the day that I have to pick up the next day. Whereas I started this practice, it gives you the time for those little things that are lurking in your subconscious that you really didn't want to forget. It allows those to resurface. So when you do, right before you pick up, open the door, you pick up that notebook and you write down your to-do list to pick up after you get off the job site or whatever it is, the meeting, the phone call, the hardcore work session that you're dumping into, or if you're meeting with a client as a psychologist or, just take a few minutes between to just reset before you take the next step forward.
Awesome. Thanks, Phil. And I think especially in a time when there is so many shorthand texts or emails, assuming positive intention is really important with messaging. And so just kind of giving everybody that upper hand and taking a moment to collect yourself is super important. Any other thoughts about keeping feelings in check at work?
Yeah, I've got just one quick thing, and not only to reiterate what Phil said, because that was the first thing on my list, is that you don't have to respond immediately. Take a minute. Because usually, whenever I make big mistakes, it's because I haven't thought things out. I'm rushing. I'm trying to prove a point. But yeah, taking that minute. But not too long ago, I was. There are things that come up all the time, and there was a thing, and kind of a big thing, and I was talking to a colleague. And surround yourself with mentors, right, of all shapes and sizes. Find out, within yourself, like what you're not good at, and surround yourself with people who are good at that thing and learn from them. So I was like I said, I was going through a thing, and a friend of mine, she's like, "I'm so excited for you." And it took me a second. I was like, what? What do you mean excited for me? I'm like, this is a sadistic sort of piece of advice. But no, what she was saying, she's like, all that you're going through right now and what you're going to learn through this experience is going to make you better when the next time this experience comes along, because it will, and you'll be able to handle it better. And she's like, because this is a big deal. The learning curve is high, and you're going to make a mistake or two. But I'm excited for you because you're going to learn so much. And so, and maybe it's a little bit of, the positive attitude that Phil was talking about, but it's also kind of looking at things in very longitudinally, right? Like, why, thinking about, why was this obstacle put in my way? Like, what am I here to learn? And that has actually really helped guide me quite a bit since she told that to me, and it's changed the way that I look at things. So yeah, be excited about that opportunity. Just the other day I was having a bad day, and I was like, nah. I woke up the next day and I'm like, I'm ready for today. Come on, let's go. And being able to remember those feelings is also, Phil, you had said something about writing things down. Whenever you have those really not so great moments, and then you have a moment or two that's really great, write down how you felt at that really great moment, and then go back to that, and that will help you navigate what you're going through now. So you can also be excited about that adversity, because you can quite potentially pop out better on the other side.
I can share something that, Chris, what you just shared just brought to mind. One of the things that I walked away from grad school with, one of my big life lessons that I felt like I heard from multiple mentors and multiple professors, was this idea of As a classroom teacher, if your students aren't like getting it, like getting the concept that you're trying to teach, or if they're not like behaving the way you want them to behave, instead of like your first reaction just being like, it's my kid's fault, instead like sort of cultivating this response of like, what if it's me? Like, what if I can change something? You know, like if my kids aren't listening, maybe I'm not like being interesting enough, or maybe I haven't like created like a classroom culture or like rules that are like clear so people do know how I want them to behave right now. Or maybe I didn't present the concept in like a way that like made sense for all my students. Like maybe I can try harder. Of course, like, you know, blame is like always like shared, right? But kind of taking any conflict at work, even if you feel like it's if you are like a victim, or if someone is like doing something unfair or unjust to you, it's been really helpful for me to sort of turn that around and say, you know, what could I be doing? Like, because I can't change another person. I can't like fix a situation necessarily. But what can I do to like come to this situation and be better? And so that's been like a huge like learning curve for me. And I think it's what it not only like informs how I make decisions at work, but I think it also, that like mindset can also help determine the way that you influence your work culture, because you're often not making decisions just with yourself, right? You're on a team of people often, or like a sub team that is making decisions together. And especially when conflict comes up, you as a team have to figure out how you're going to respond. And so if you can as a team say, okay, well, what could we do better to respond to this, like, you know, outside thing that's happening? I think it's been a more kind and loving and like mature response to go to, rather than to place blame. So I don't know, that kind of goes with the question, I hope, but was maybe more of a spinoff on what Chris said, but I hope that's helpful.
Of course it is. Yeah, because we were talking about decision making, and a lot of that is perspective. So Nicole, I think you brought us home with that. Thank you so much. All right, and it's crazy. Time flies when you're having fun, folks. So we have hit our 12:50 time mark, and since this is Let's Do Lunch, now is the time when our panelists get to share their favorite lunch meal, whether it might be somewhere here in the Stanton area that our students could go check out. Maybe it's something you whip up at home, but I'll let you guys self-select, and your sign-off here is, what's your favorite lunch, y'all? I know you guys like to eat. Don't even play. Everybody's being bashful here. I know all of you.
I'll go first.
Awesome. Go ahead, Chris.
So I went to Shenandoah University, and one of my high school basketball teammates, who was also one of my college basketball teammates, owns a restaurant just outside of Stanton called Smoking Rooster, and jerk chicken every day, and he makes the best jerk chicken. Also downtown on Saturdays at the gas station, they have the Struthers family, like they smoke jerk chicken. So whenever you can find them on Saturdays, but Mandrell's open every day. And he's down on US 250, down the roads a bit, right near where Shields Golf Course is. It's called the Smoking Rooster, and it's a great place to get Jamaican food and like barbecue and stuff like that. So.
And it is student pricing friendly. I took my brother there, and we got like $3 or $4. We got a huge barbecue sandwich and a side. If you ever want to butter Caleb up, Chris, you take him to Smoking Rooster for lunch. All right, guys, who else?
Chicken burrito, extra cheese at Chicano Boy at lunchtime. Woo! That's all I got.
What color salsa do you go for? Are you a red?
Green. I get the green.
Totally green salsa.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm gonna second Chicano Boy for sure.
Bill, what did you say?
I usually do tacos with habanero.
Their potatoes, I think about all the time. I miss them. Lindsay, what is the status of Gloria's right now?
I'm not 100% sure. I did see Gloria and her husband in City Hall the other day, and I think they're going to be relocating because their place was hit so hard by the flooding that we had.
Mm-hmm.
Word on the street is they will be reopening, but I think it'll be at a new location.
Okay, because that's what that used to be the the best affordable lunch in Stanton was Gloria's. I miss them too.
I do. The locusts, I've been dreaming about those, and every time I drive by and see like the paper in the windows, it's been very sad.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you eat, Chris? The pupusas, is that your lunch, your favorite lunch?
Oh yeah, just the bean and cheese pupusa is so good.
Nice.
Oh,
Detective Souls, we can't leave you out. What do you like?
I am like a fat kid at heart, so I love all things food. And it kind of just depends on what I have time for. But if I actually get to sit down, I always go for like pho. Like it's just always like warms your soul, and it's just loves you as much as it like you love it. It's fantastic.
That's great. We have
you guys can get that at is it Laughing Bird now?
Yeah, Laughing Bird.
So good.
Yeah, so you guys can get that at Laughing Bird. And Laughing Bird also has a vegetarian pho. So, yum.
You do. I think the only person we haven't heard from was Megan. Are you still with us, Megan?
I am, and I would say the Pampered Palate, and I would recommend the Texas Wrap.
Ooh, yeah. I haven't been to the Pampered Palate in a while. I have to go now. But well, thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate you guys sharing a little bit about the work that you're doing. And I saw that we have everything from sophomores kind of just starting their journey to seniors that joined us today. So again, thank you from the Vantage Point and our Mary Baldwin students for joining us at Let's Do Lunch today. Bye, guys.
All right, thank you.